Well met and happy medieval Monday. Today I wanted to talk about food, but since in my game it's like the middle of winter, we'll talk about it as much as we can, and maybe there'll be a part 2. I don't know. So I was thinking about seeds, and one of the easiest ways to get seeds is through trade, right? So anytime you have a merchant show up, you're going to want to pick your settler with speechcraft. High speechcraft is good for bargaining. So we'll have Ethelstan here do some bartering. Okay, and that will bring up your bartering menu, and I like to sort it by prices so I can see everything that the merchant has all at once instead of scrolling through hundreds of things. I'm gonna get a few things here, but what I really wanted to show you is that he also is carrying some apple saplings, so I'm gonna snag those. And I always need more bricks and limestone bricks, but here we go. I always, like, even if I have a lot of barley, I always buy barley. You can never have enough. And then here are the seeds. So cabbage, beet, carrot, flax. There's also herb seeds, but those are pretty easy to collect on your own. I'm overstocked right now because I have my garden set up pretty nice, but you can trade for as much seed as you want, or you can sell excess seed, which I'm gonna do for flax. You just kind of shuffle your amounts around. I have really like way too much seed at the moment. Ice blocks are really important for food. I'll show you how to make those in just a minute since it's winter time. Now, when bartering, if you're playing the game in like standard or survival mode, you will eventually acquire a bunch of kind of junky armor that nobody wants, and this is a great way to get rid of it. Obviously you can kind of recycle it as well, but it's awesome bartering tool. So anything you don't need, this is a great time to offload it. Cattle, sheep, livestock, animals in general are also good trading items because they are expensive, 1, and 2, they don't have to carry them. So if you notice the top here, this storage bit, it's not a big deal if it's like a whole caravan of people, but when it's like one single merchant, this becomes kind of a nightmare because you can't overload them, but you still have to give them enough resources for the trade. And this is a good time to get rid of excess critters that you don't particularly need. And like I said, any of those like junk items that you won during battles. It's also really easy to trade saplings that you've harvested while collecting wood. And stuff like rat leather. You can use it to make clothes and rugs, but I think that's weird, so I don't. So the settlers like gear that is fine or better. They're okay with good, but fine, superior, and flawless will last a lot longer. Okay. So whatever I still owe, I will usually make up with gold or silver or craft items. That's maybe too much money there. And then it's never a bad idea to give them more than what they're asking for, because it helps you build relationships and grow influence around the territory. So once we're satisfied, we'll hit accept. And then everything that we just traded for will be in a big pile. So you'll want to have that stuff moved to a stockpile as soon as possible. One good source of food is animals. Sheep will give you wool and milk. Goats will give you milk. Chickens obviously will give you eggs and meat. And then cows will give milk. Any of your domesticated animals can also be killed and used for food. Dogs and cats, I don't think they do a lot. I have noticed like the cats will go around and kill mice, and sometimes the dogs will too, and so that's kind of nice. You'll notice cats and dogs and pets will kind of run in and out of doors and buildings and so on, but animals that are just domesticated will stay inside their pen. And then to build a pen, you have to have like a completely enclosed space, either with walls or dirt or fences. And then you add a pen marker, and that'll show you like the whole space. And then you can control what animals go into what pens. So right now I have a loose goat. So I'm gonna go ahead and have somebody with animal handling skills who's not super busy rope this goat and take it to a pen. And he's gonna drag it down to its pen. You do have to take care of the animals. You have to make sure they have food. So you can make animal feed, or you can use hay. And I like to put like some barley gardens and some red currants in the pens themselves, because that can save some time during the summer. And then of course, in job management menu, you'll want to assign a couple of people higher priorities of animal husbandry, so they'll take care of the animals automatically. That means they'll milk the cow and shear the sheep and so on. You have to watch them though, because they won't automatically haul those items back, so you might have eggs sitting out here rotting. Or wool or milk or whatever. Here I've got a chicken, one of my cows, a cat. You can name them or change their names if you want to by typing in here. Sheep. So by clicking on the animal, you can see its age, how trained it is, how many training attempts are left. Settlers with high levels of animal husbandry can train the animals, and that's how you take a wild animal and turn it into a domestic animal, or you take a domestic animal and turn it into a pet. It'll also tell you their milk and wool production or egg production or whatever. And that kind of lets you decide, like, if you're going to dispatch some animals for meat. You probably don't want to dispatch your best producers, so you'll go after some that have declined, right? And then something else we should talk about, since it's still winter, is food storage, which seems like a weird thing to think about in the middle of winter, but it's the best time to consider it. So as early on in the game as possible, you're going to want to build yourself a cellar. It's best if it's 2 or 3 levels below ground. So I've got this one that I just kind of started. It's 3 deep. And then in here, depending on how far you are with your research, this is where you'd want to put shelving, which will get your food up off the ground. And you'll also want to make stockpiles for ice. So they didn't have refrigeration, obviously, but they knew enough that food didn't last long if you leave it outside in the hot sun or at the mercy of foxes and wolves. So they would build cellars, and they would fill the cellars with ice blocks, which you can manufacture in one of your production stations. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So you also want to keep your fermenting ingredients down here, and we kind of talked about that in the last video. What I kind of like is the shelves. You can determine exactly what goes on it, just like in a stockpile, right? So like this room is just red currant and wine. That's all that's in here. Okay. So when she's finished this roof, we can build some more shelves. The floor is finished, so let's build some shelves. So since this is only 1 level down, I'm actually going to use this room to store linens. Make sure I don't block any stairs. And even though it's just linen, I do like to put a couple of spots for ice blocks. But I don't think you have to. And then since I have this nice storage facility now, I'm gonna make a nice big spot for some beeswax. Because I always end up with too much beeswax. And then I'll make another one for pigment, which I will need eventually. We can get Paranel to prioritize construction on one, so you can kind of see what that looks like. And there we go. Nice new shelf, keeps our stuff off the ground. And I'm gonna put textiles down here. So that's any type of leather, linen, or wool. You can see I've done kind of something similar over here, but just for clothing. But yeah, food, you definitely want 2 or 3 down with plenty of ice blocks. Another way you can get food from animals is by hunting. So let's see if we can spot a critter nearby. Oh, here's a fox. Now, Mr. Fox here. If I can get my camera where you can see him better. Mr. Fox here is 23 days mature. That means he's fully grown. He's definitely not trained. We're not trying to train a fox today. That's very difficult. So we can select this to hunt or this to tame, which, like I said, we're not interested in today. So for hunting, and then we're gonna want a settler with a ranged weapon, bow and arrow, with a high skill set in marksmanship. And actually, I think my best is Paranel, who's very busy building, but we will have her come and hunt this fox for us so you can see what that looks like. Let's get rid of these trees. Here she comes. And she's gonna give up because he's too far away. Sometimes I've had to draft them to get them to go to the right spot. And that's what I'm gonna have to do this time. The pause button is my friend. So then I'm gonna undraft and reprioritize. There she goes. Now she will pick it up and take it back to the settlement. So in order for her to do that, you have to have a stockpile for carcasses. Okay, she's gonna put that down, and then we will get somebody else. Let's see. Great. A cold snap. During a cold snap, temperatures are going to drop like crazy and people have a much higher chance of dying from hypothermia. So you're going to want to keep them indoors as much as possible. To do that, my favorite trick is to increase indoor activities like research or tailoring or carpentry, that kind of thing. And just keep an eye on them. Oh, Athelstan already went and got that fox. Dang it. So he's gonna take it to this butchering table, and he will eventually make a pile of meat and a pile of leather. Butchering tables are also where you can make trophies. I don't know why I have so many on the floor here, but those can be used as decoration. Meat obviously needs to go downstairs into the cellar as soon as possible. Here we go. Here's our ice blocks. Then, if you want to make it last extra long time, you can use the Smokehouse and make smoked meat. When I play the standard version of this game, I try to put as much production, like outdoor production stuff, on roofs. So like the smokehouse and the kiln there. It's just safer that way. There we go. Smoked meat. That should go down to your stockpile in the cellar also. Even if it's smoked, it can still go bad. It'll just take a lot longer. So any food item you can see, just like how we talked about during the fermenting video, you can see, like here my shelf, I can see what's on it, but I can also see how fresh it is and how long before it rots. So there's a lot of different types of meals you can make your settlers. These are some lavish meals, and these are packaged meals, which last the longest. Early in the game, you're starting out with just a campfire where you can make regular meals. So that's like stew and roast meat and red currant pie. And as you unlock research and you start getting more animals and more different types of food, like cheese and eggs and so on, then you can start making different types of food. Eventually, you can upgrade from your campfire to a stove. It'd be very fancy. So we've got our little clay brick hearth here. And that is where you can make the lavish meals and the pickled vegetables, which of course will last much longer. And to make those, you need vinegar or salt. It's a good way to preserve all your summer growing. Ah yes, over time your animals will make more animals. That's why I have 2 million sheep. And if you ever catch a bunch of rabbits, you'll have 2 million rabbits, because rabbits. Alright, so ice blocks. Production menu. Ice block. Install. And then everybody's asleep. Prioritize construction. This is why I like people with the night owl perk. Devin is gonna build us an ice box. And there it is. Look, it's so exciting. It's a box and a bucket. And like all production assets, we're gonna go and create our production queue. And I'm just gonna say forever, because I like ice. Okay. We can even get him to prioritize some production for us. Obviously, you can only make ice in the winter time. And you have to unlock research for it and all of that. So food things that you should research. agriculture, obviously. A nice to have for food is terraforming, so that you can move soil around and put your gardens exactly where you want to put your gardens. Beekeeping, that gives you honey and beeswax, so you can make candles and mead. Fermenting is what helps you unlock the fermenting station. I cannot encourage you to unlock this one first enough. Like, obviously, you have to unlock architecture first, but I would strongly suggest architecture, agriculture, and then fermenting. After that, do as you will. Preserving food is what unlocks shelves and smokehouses. Cooking unlocks the stove and the lavish meal. Ice making obviously unlocks the ice box. And then as you get further and further in your research, you can go to preserving food, which is what will allow you to make packaged meals. Chemistry, that gives you your apothecary bench and medicine shelves, and that's probably a whole separate episode. And then brewing is for beer and ale and mead. And distilling makes alcohol, which they use more medicinally than for drinking. I think that's all the food related items. So there you go. A little bit about food in the middle of winter. It's almost spring in the game though, so maybe we'll do some garden stuff next. While the animals eat all of our stockpiles of food. Because we don't have any